Since he arrived in this refugee camp in Sudan's Gadarif state 5 days ago, HAILE WOLDEGABRIEL has been hoping to have his wound properly treated. He says shrapnel hit his hand while he was fleeing from soldiers in Ethiopia's northern Tigray region, but he's now lost 2 fingers.
I was at the farm where I worked when I started seeing people running. I didn't know what was going on, and when I went to see, there were soldiers shooting at them.
HAILE says he was also hit by shrapnel in his stomach, and fragments are still lodged in his hand. It's now become infected, and he's worried he may lose it. Fighting in the Tigray region began more than 2 weeks ago when the regional Tigray People's Liberation Front launched an attack on a military base. The government responded by launching an offensive that's forced more than 35,000 people to flee to neighboring Sudan. This camp was uninhabited, but Sudan's government has reopened it to cope with the sudden influx. HARAG and her 2 children arrived here after running away from their home and walking for 10 days to cross the border.
At night, armed men came to my house and threatened us and told us we should leave immediately or we will be killed. So I took my 2 children and what I could carry.
More than 15,000 refugees live in this camp. Many tell stories of brutal killings and long journeys to escape. Ethiopia's government has imposed a communications blackout and blocked access to the region since the start of the fighting. Rights groups say civilians have been targeted in Tigray. The United Nations says the killings could amount to war crimes. While not all of those displaced have witnessed the attacks others recount, they say the stories they heard from family members and relatives were enough to make them come here rather than staying back home. And those who say they witnessed with their own eyes people being slaughtered and killed say they doubt the memory will ever fade from their minds. TELEHUN, his wife, and 2 children were among the first to arrive in the camp, fleeing from Meikadra. He says the journey took them nearly 5 days and they came with little of what they owned.
We lived in the suburbs and I had only heard of the fighting back then. But then people came armed with machetes and knives and it was chaos from there.
TELEHUN says he doesn't know which side the people who came to his hometown belonged to because they were dressed as civilians. And to his children, who once had the comfort of a secure home, he now has to explain that their lives have changed and they face an uncertain future. Hiba, Al Jazeera, Al Fashaga, Gadarif State.